This is RSBANDB Update, episode 590, recorded Thursday, October 20th, 2016. Smithing Mining Hairs. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for RSBANDB Update. Just myself and Mr. Bistro here this week, as per usual. Welcome.
Hello.
So, bit of a quiet week this week, given Patch Week and all of the, ARC, not welding, but visiting people have been doing since the ARC came out last week. Lots of people still discovering things in the ARC and moving through it. We'll talk a bit about that this week in addition to the patches. But aside from that, this week got some interesting stuff on the mining and smithing rework that was just revealed today. Kind of a bit of a primer on how the second redesign is going to work and why they did what they did. And then, well, in case you guys have probably noticed, we do have another treasure hunter update that is rewarding huge amounts of experience. So we'll chat a bit about that. Then questions and tech news, rounding out the show as we normally do. So let's just dive right in then, shall we?
We shall.
Okay, so Patch Week aside, this week they are unveiling the Iron Man birthday mode celebration. Iron Man came out 2 years ago this week, and if you are an Iron Man character and you logged into the previous 2 weeks before this update, you do get 2 weeks free membership. Those were handed out on Monday at various times of the day, so any Iron Man that logged in is received that membership. I personally thought about creating one of these characters, but decided no, I'm not going to do that right now. Did you create one? As we were talking last week? No, yeah.
No, I didn't.
I mean, just looking at what we have right now, there's so much content to take care of that we might as well just focus on that rather than, creating new characters and going down the path of being self-sufficient.
Yeah, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is. And, I mean, people always ask me, why aren't you maxing? You're so close to maxing, and the amount of time it would take is relatively small. And, the answer is if I max out skills, then there's nothing left to train in them. And through doing that, I think that I am depriving myself of future updates when they arrive. So that's why I don't do that. But that's just my perspective on things. I'm not sure if you feel similar.
I feel like getting to that point of being maxed just means that if that content is around, I'll have access to it if I really want to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, so Iron Man celebrates 2 years in-game this week, and there's a competition going on to win a real-life Golden Scythe by competing in the Halloween short story competition. They want you to write a Halloween horror story with a maximum of 200 characters, including spaces. 200 characters. The story will be judged on the spookiest and will win the Golden Scythe, and another story will win a RuneScape Bond. Competition ends on November 1st. Does it seem to me that 200 characters is going to be pretty hard to come up with a story and fit something in that amount of space?
No, us millennials, I think we were able to do such a thing growing up with Twitter.
Really?
I think it's possible.
You think you can write a story in 200 characters and that would be scary? And have a good rising action, climax, and falling action. You think that's possible?
It only has to be good enough to be better than the other people.
And I guess since it's so short and it is coming from the RS community, we're not going to be up against, the Pulitzer Prize novel winners. So
no.
All right. Well, you can find that out on the official RS forums, and links are in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com. Following from that, moving straight into patch week here. Some interesting things that they highlight on the news posting, the patch notes they want us to see. Of course, there's many more we'll go through in just a moment. But first up, the Wilderness Sword now works correctly when trying to locate the wildy worm, which is good, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to find that. And if it was being unreliable, then that kind of defeats the purpose of it as a reward. Some arc changes, including that undead chickens on Goshima can now lay pickled eggs. That sounds pretty weird. I don't know. Pickled eggs to me sound pretty disgusting. A healing area has been added to the Cyclosis Banker, and receiving contracts now requires 90 farming as well as 86 cooking. We did have a problem in the first week here where people were able to receive these contracts without having the appropriate levels. So that's been fixed. Also, Wobblegong Oil and Shiny Turtle Bowl transmutation now transmutes 10 items at a time instead of 1. Mm-hmm. So focusing in on one of the best chime making methods in game currently. Some changes to Nomad Hard Mode and the currency pouch. The ability to reset the memory of Nomad with weekly reset tokens is now correctly reset. And the symbol for Uncharted Isle supplies in the currency pouch has been corrected. All right, I'm not sure what it was at before, but always good to be clearing up user interface confusions. Some combat changes. Halberds no longer require a strength level alongside their attack level. This is a big change.
Awful change.
I'm assuming you're being sarcastic.
No, I
Why is it an awful change?
You know, halberds were unique in that they required a strength level to use them.
Right.
And I think it should have stayed that way. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. Like, there better have been like the smallest amount of dev time put into working on that, because otherwise it's complete waste.
Yeah, and I can see that being a very small change. Here's my rationale for removing the strength requirement. With the evolution of combat, we saw a general cleanup of the way combat items and whatnot work in the game. And I think that when you split things out, you have your attack level, which is basically your tactician level, how you can formulate tactics and attack various critters and what you know how to do, right? But your strength level is how hard you hit. So for me, it doesn't make sense to have a weapon gated behind a strength level. Now, that's just the way I see it. That kind of makes sense, right?
No.
Really? You don't think so? You don't think?
No, I think that it should have stayed the way it was. I'm going to hold to it. I'm not changing my mind.
But if you have something that requires a strength level, and strength is only measuring how hard you can hit something, does it make sense that, having a strength level is a requirement for knowing how to use something? It just doesn't make sense to me. But, all right, if you want to leave it there, then we can leave it. Intercept can no longer be cast on an enemy player in Castle Wars or Soul Wars minigames. For those of you guys who have not looked at the Saren spells, Intercept is the ability that lets you cast on a friendly player, and with that, it allows you to take a portion of the damage that person would have normally received. And I don't know what casting it on an enemy player at Castle Wars would do. I mean, you would basically be negating damage on an enemy opponent, which made no sense at all. So, makes sense that this was fixed, I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
For Iron Man, Slayer XP rewarded from completing Soul Reaper assignments is no longer halved. All right. And I mean, Soul Reaper is a fairly self-sufficient thing to do, so I don't see why that should have been halved. So, though I don't have an Iron Man character, so if you are an Iron Man out there and you disagree with this, please do let me know. Some ninja fixes. Champions Challenge reward XP is now paid out in lamp form. It's also now possible to destroy auras which weren't on cooldown and reclaim them from the loyalty store off cooldown. This is a classic bug. You destroy an aura if it's on cooldown, and then 6 months later when you come back, oh, this aura has a 3-hour cooldown on it. Why is that the case? I actually have noticed that before, so that's great.
That would be really annoying.
Yeah, it was.
I've never run into that.
I experienced that with the five-fingered fast discount aura. Apparently, I destroyed that when it was on cooldown. Then when I went back to get it, once upon a time, it still had a cooldown on it, and I was wondering what was going on with that. So, yeah. Having insufficient runes no longer unsets any autocast that you might have active. Okay, that's good to know. It's also now possible to view your opponent's inventory and worn items in the Dual Arena Challenge interface. This is excellent. Viewing an inventory and worn items so you know exactly what you're going up against and what kind of food you're going up against. Just to make dueling that much easier. More fair and easier to use is excellent. And interfaces will no longer move slightly when logging in. I'm not entirely sure what this means, but I guess this is to do with if you log in at perhaps a different window resize. I'm betting it won't be as far off as it was before. So we'll have to poke around and see what this. But in my initial testings, I really didn't feel anything with this. So. And Barrow's pets are now accessible via the Boss Pets filter on the Customizations interface. So those are the patch notes that Jagex wanted us to see, and now I'm going to go through some that I think we should talk about. First up, Yuri will no longer take more than one costume skipping ticket, which is excellent because these Clue Scroll skip tickets are very expensive, and I mean, if you buy 2 of them for $600K and end up using both of them by accident, you're going to be pretty upset. So amazing that something like this was able to creep into game. Choppable bamboo can now be found on Twilight. Receiving sliced mushroom contracts is the task that requires 90 farming as well as 86 cooking. That was made clear in the previous patch notes. The Twilight Moai has been renamed to match the other Moai, and transmuting driftwood into sliced mushrooms now consumes 2 driftwood instead of 5 driftwood, which is pretty good when you think about it, considering how rare driftwood is on some of the starting out Uncharted Isles that you might be going to. So, good that it's down from 2 to 5. Barrow's bobbleheads now belong in the Pets interface. Access them from the Boss Pets filter on the Customizations interface. All right, I don't have any Barrow's bobbleheads, but that's good to know going forward. The Demonic Skull is now always lost on death when dying in PvP situations, so you can't protect it anymore. So if you die in a PvP situation, the enemy killing you is going to be guaranteed to get that 500K. So, extra incentive to try and kill people who are using this Demonic Skull. What did you think of this when this came out as a way of kind of boosting wilderness skilling?
I think it's all right. I don't think it plays as big of a role as you may think it does.
Well, it made Abyssal rune crafting viable again.
Yeah, it did. But anyone that's at 50 rune crafting, I'd say that a really fast method is not 50 rune crafting, but the level required in order to create the nature run familiar. That one tiger, I can't remember what it's called.
The Spirit Grak.
Yeah. I still think that method wins everything.
Yeah. All right. All right. Following from that, non-members can now access the Giant Mole, KBD, and Games Room via the grouping system. The good old grouping system. I don't really do PVM combat, and you might have an idea on this, but at the end game PVM content stuff like raids and whatnot, do people use the grouping system, or is everything? Oh, they do. Okay.
Yes. And the grouping system takes getting used to, and it took longer to get used to than I thought was necessary. I feel like it can be simplified a little bit. As for knowing who gets loot and all this kind of stuff, because it takes things from friends chat, and it's a mess.
Yeah, it really is. And, for the first...
But it is still a helpful mess, and I think that needs to be said.
Okay, because, for the first 6 months that this was in-game, we desperately wanted this to succeed. But it was so cumbersome to use that I don't think anyone used it. And it took, a good 2 to 3 amounts of patch notes to actually make the grouping system viable. So I'm glad to hear that it is still being used in high-end bossing situations, so that's good. A keybind slot is now available for familiar details. Excellent. You can basically keybind everything in game. I don't know why that's not keybinded. One thing that I think is a good thing to mention at this point, and it goes back to prior to the launch of Rune Metrics. There's lots of people out there who still want the old-fashioned, simple XP counter in the game. They feel Rune Metrics is too much. And, if that was to ever be brought back, I think that they could have maybe made the interface a little bit nicer on that and made it work. And the reason I say this is because there have been cases where the XP count in-game via Rune Metrics did not match up to the actual XP count on the high scores tables.
Whoopsies.
This was talked about for a skill of the month last month, and that, the in-game counter said I got less XP than I actually did. But if I take my start XP and my finish XP, that's the actual XP on the RSBANDB website. So there's some questions about how accurate that Rune Metrics XP counter is, and whether or not the in-game actions counter is actually a viable thing to be using.
Yeah, that's actually really concerning, because Rune Metrics is something that people actually do pay for.
Yeah.
And if it's actually proving to be a little busted in areas, that should be...
there's no reason why an in-game XP counter should be wrong and the outside amount of XP was right, because basically all we do at the end of the month is take your XP on the last day of the month and subtract it with your XP on the first day of the month, and that's how much XP you gained in the skill of the month. And those two numbers did not match up. And those numbers are pulled from the high scores table. So there is some discrepancy between the high scores table on the website and Rune Metrics. And I realize this is a keybind patch note talking about this, but coming back to keybinds, I'm always reminded of the fact that the old-fashioned XP counter did not have the option to keybind it until Rune Metrics came out. And with Rune Metrics being out, it's fair to shine the light on this, I think. I don't have any technical details on this. I've only heard of it in one case, so I'm not sure if it's an isolated incident to maybe, a client lockup or some other issue like that. But it might be something worth looking into for those of you guys competing in Skill of the Month. All right. Following from that, player-owned house bookcases now have a search option.
Cool.
You don't sound very impressed.
It's pretty lackluster.
Really? Okay. Let me tell you about this. And anyone who is interested in the lore of the game will have gone to their bookcase at one point in the past to look something up. And with so many books from so many quests in the bookcase, you definitely want to have, a search option to search for titles and context of what's happening in the books, because if you don't, then, you're basically looking through, I gotta say, it's probably 100 plus books now at this point. So.
Yeah. And speaking of removing books, the wise old man can now remove books obtained from the River of Blood quest.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't know why you'd want to do that. I guess they go in the bookcase, but it is what it is. Also, the buy limit of Tectonic Energy, Malevolent Energy, and Serenic scales on the exchange has been increased to 100 from 10. Which is pretty good when you think about it, that these are used to create the Tier 90 power armors, and, well, 10's not enough. So, glad it's been changed. And the last one I wanted to highlight was that dealing magic damage with the Crackling perk now displays as ability damage matching the other combat styles. So, magic was left out. And, this is a good pointer to anyone out there looking for perks, is that Crackling will now do damage based on whatever combat type you're using. That was a patch note a few months back.
Yeah. I'm looking at some of the hot fixes, and the upgraded Bone Crusher no longer picking up ashes makes me a little bit sad.
Yeah, but we have a specific item for that, though,
it.
Don't we? We have an item for that that's already in game, so... and of course, these are the ARC patch notes and relating to last week's hotfixes and issues. And one thing I think that really is to be highlighted here with this week's patch note is that there's not too many changes relating to balance in the ARC, which, in my view, cements in the ARC Chapter 2 as a good update that was balanced coming into game and kind of got the balance right from the previous version when it was not. So that's pretty good. All right. Anything else in the patch notes that jumped out at you?
Not really. There's no longer a magic level requirement for using quick teleports. I don't know if you brought that one up already.
No, what's a quick teleport?
Now I don't know what a quick teleport is.
Like, one would think that it would be the only thing that comes to mind would be the lodestones with Viswax.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing that comes to mind that you could call a quick teleport, but that's just me. I'm not sure if that's what the actual verbiage is referring to there. But anyways, that's patch notes for this patch week. Moving on, we do have some additional stuff relating to the ARC to talk about. A listener pointed out after last week's show, optimal island configurations, that we really didn't mention that. And we didn't because at the time I was focused on getting the mini quest done and, really didn't have much time to explore what all the optimal configurations of these islands would be. Plus, I didn't have at the time 97 mining to take advantage of the golden salt. So one of the optimal island configurations suggested for a large island is 3 divination spots and 2 salt spots, which will yield you 150k divination XP for 90 minutes and 225,000 mining XP per hour. So yeah, that's one optimal configuration, and then from that you can use the divination energy to transmutate the salt into wobblegong oil and then the oil into turtle bowls in order to make shark soup. So you don't even need those wobblegong fishing spots anymore. You can just start with salt and divination and off you go. Another potential interesting island configuration would be 3 divination, 2 salt, and perhaps bamboo. Just to have the bamboo on the island for some woodcutting XP as well. Doesn't necessarily need to be golden bamboo, but it's definitely out there and can provide a nice chunk of woodcutting experience for you. So that's one option of what you can be looking for in an island. There's also some confirmation here, once again posted by forum user Div, about XP rates. And let's just say that when it comes to golden bamboo, 131k XP an hour, woodcutting XP. Or 73.8k an hour for Waiko bamboo, standard bamboo. Mm-hmm. Following from that, the golden salt, 152k XP an hour, or which is basically, pretty great for mining XP, and then you combine that with chimes, and then you can reach that daily chime rate pretty quick. So lots of great XP rates coming from this. Ornate Turtles, 665k XP an hour. 665k. Can you believe that?
No.
Like, we've gone from the point where Hunter is one of the slowest and most tedious skills in game to perhaps one of the fastest skills in game. But as we mentioned this summer, it doesn't really feel like there's much use to the Hunter skill. So, I don't know. But,
yeah, these skills are speeding up so fast.
Yeah, and it's like, if we're doing this, then okay, sure, but what does that mean for progression in the skill and ultimately moving beyond, level 99 and so on and so forth? It's like, okay, so we can get there really quickly, but if not, then, like, if we didn't have this, we would basically still have a sense of what it feels like to train skills normally, but we're going so fast now, it's like, what's the point? Mm-hmm. So, I've always been a fan of skills being slower, so with them seeing Hunter this fast, I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about that. It kind of feels like it is taking part of something good away from the game that should have existed in the core Hunter skill, but I guess we need a reason to draw people over to the Arc.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this was a bad move. I can't really even understand the reasoning behind it, because I didn't think that so few people were actually going to the Arc right now.
Well, it was. I have to say, aside from the first batch of mini quests, it was practically dead content a couple days after it came out last time. But this time now, with the changes that were brought in, a week and a half after the Arc is released, there are still people out there hunting for the various things on that, Arc tour guide that people are wanting to complete. So it did do its job of fulfilling that requirement. So, I mean, I guess it's a win in that book, but the XP rates are awfully high. And I would love to see some of the internal discussion about this, about, whether the XP needed to be this high to draw people in.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if they now have to ask themselves, well, where does that, what do we have to do next for when something else comes up with this exact same situation? How are we going to handle it now? Because they're just digging themselves into a hole where the experience just keeps getting higher and higher. Yeah.
And, I mean, from one divination wisp on an uncharted isle, the official experience given by Jagex, 107k XP an hour, and that's before boosts. And you can get 3 of those. 3 of those. Granted, we've seen 150k over 90 minutes, but Jagex says it can potentially be higher. So,
of course it can. Why not?
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, you complete the Arc, and hopefully, maybe there'll be something to take out of the Arc at the end aside from the chimes and all that, and the Tetsu armor. So, but anyways, it's also worth noting that the Uncharted Isles are relatively AFKable because it takes so long to perform the actions and it gives the XP. So that's another reason for players to want to go there. So you definitely want to focus on the divination spots and the salt. You could go 2 divination, 2 salt, and, maybe 1 golden bamboo. I think that would probably be a nice benefit. Or if you wanted to maximize div, 3 div and 2 salt. Or if you wanted to maximize mining, 3 salt, 2 div. That's probably the best way of splitting these up and what to look for on the Uncharted Isles. So we have learned that since last week's posting, and I'd like to just mention forum user div for posting this. Thank you. Following from that, some other additional information has been revealed about the Ark, and specifically relating to the berry breeding. When you think about it, it's kind of like Pokemon breeding.
Yeah.
Because you combine the various berries and you get a different berry at the end of the day. These are, of course, using the berry planter on Twilight. They take roughly 42 hours to grow, each giving a different amount of XP. So far, it seems that all of the berries reduce your defense by 1 and increase another skill by 2. The confirmed ones that we have right now are the combat skills, plus hunter, mining, fishing, woodcutting, firemaking, thieving, and summoning, and probably others as well. So these berries are basically, I think their sole purpose right now is for completing the berry checklist on the Ark. I would love to see them used in some kind of potion later on, perhaps. But right now, I don't really think it's justifiable to be hunting a certain berry for a +2 boost to a skill, unless, you just need that +2 boost, and this is a guaranteed way of getting it. So, there's that. Also, on other things, being able to find them on the Ark, some of the birds are hard to find, and there's one that is called the dusty wigglebill, and this bird is only available at dusk. So that means that you need to either find it on an uncharted isle or change your time of day using a hammock. So that is how you find the uncharted isle wigglebill, or dusky wigglebill. Boy, that's a mouthful to say. And each of these birds appear on a different day of the week, and you can find them using the various friends chats that are out there. So, and the hammock is an item, for those of you guys wondering, that you can purchase and put on your own island, and using that will let you change the time of day, and that'll allow the birds to appear, or the dusky wigglebill to appear on your uncharted isle at the specific time that it's supposed to. You need to be in dusk mode for that. I think that's interesting, this being the first official content in game that requires being a different time of day. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with this. Yeah.
Feels a little bit sloppy, but we'll get better with time, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a simple thing out there, so it's not something that is going to cost you a huge amount of XP if you don't find it in time. But just a heads up that that's how you find it. Following from that, there has also been some discussion about finding the various castaways. Apparently, even as of today, no one has found Squick the castaway. If you look at the various locations of where you can find these castaways, it says currently unknown. And believe it or not, one of the JMods actually said, "Oh, you haven't found Squick yet? Well, next Wednesday it will appear again. Too hard to find? ? Winky face." So it'll appear again on the 26th, and apparently no one has found him yet. So if you are having trouble finding Squick, you're not alone, and that's something that everyone who has been searching for castaways has been struggling with. And it's also worth noting that the castaways are what you find when you use a message in a bottle. So, yeah. Let's see, which is the one that I found? Yeah, I found Salmonella.
Interesting name.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Yeah. So, all right. Let's see. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay, that makes sense. Anyways, I think that's all I need to mention relating to the Ark. I'm not too much personally concerned about the various aspects of finding all the berries, castaways, or birds. But one thing I am doing is I'm getting 97 mining so I can mine the salt. So that is something that I think anyone who is wanting to seriously play the Ark should definitely look at having. What's your mining level?
I'm maxed.
Oh, okay. Well, you should go visit the Ark then. You should go visit the Ark and complete all this before I do, and we can have some good fun with that. Hey, if you said that you're going to try and get me to do divination, I can try and get you to go visit the Ark more.
Well, I don't think you have a problem doing divination. I
mean dungeoneering, right? For some reason, I still mix those two up. But all right, so Dev Diary for mining and smithing. Reasons to get to level 99 is what this first video is called here. What do you think now that we've seen a first look of what this mining and smithing rework's ultimately going to look like?
I have to reserve judgment for it right now. It feels like they're spinning their wheels a little bit, based on what I'm seeing.
All right.
And, I don't know. It's just a little bit concerning. I think they just need to not rush everything and just take their time, because I'm just hearing a lot of stuff that I heard before. I did hear a lot of things that I did like from it this time around. For one, like the assurance that it's not going to go to 120. Can stop losing sleepless nights over that. That's good. But I'm also glad that they're keeping the idea of expanding out the levels. And I don't think that would have ever gone away, but I was also really happy to see that the tier 90 stuff, that art stuff, didn't get tossed away either. Like,
yeah, that's
there's
good.
Stuff that they're pulling from last time and using. It's just you can kind of notice it a little bit, and they just got to tread a little bit carefully and really think it through. Because I think they're in a tough place right now, because they need it to be updated and for it to feel like it stays updated, because there's a lot of development time that's going into this, and if it ends up being old content again in 2 years, was it worth it?
Exactly. Like, the first batch of mining and smithing has gone from 2001 all the way to 2016, and I mean, I'll argue that, in the past 3 to 4 years is when, started to show its age, so definitely needed that. I think they definitely hit on some very good points here, and tell me what you think of these. They said that the last design came as a surprise to some people and should have ultimately have been more collaborative with the players rather than, here, we're going to unveil this design, here's what we think, and so on and so forth. And, I mean, I can see why they feel that way, but at the same time, as we talked about in recent episodes, they do need to have the courage to take huge step forward and make big decisions.
I think that's what's taking a lot of time out of all this whole development stuff. It's like, we have to ask the players, we have to wait to hear what they have to say, and if a majority of them don't like it, then we got to redo it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No, there should be stuff that's just designed behind closed doors. They're their own frickin' company. They can do their own frickin' work. If they're going to ask me to make decisions for them, I would like my membership reduced, and I would like to get a paycheck in the mail.
Oh yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It shows a lack of confidence, really, to me, that we can have a vision, we can have a grand vision, we can put it forward, we can show it to the players, we can implement it, and we can ultimately publish it at the end of the day, and the players will enjoy it. They used to have that courage. They accomplished that with so many things, Slayer, the Slayer skill, for example. No one heard of that before it came out, and it was a hit. Construction, same thing. No one heard of that. It came out. It was a hit when it first came out.
It makes you wonder, does Jagex employ data analysts?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure they do. They had the whole podcast on data visualization and analytics last month. But
do they use this information?
I mean,
it doesn't sound like it to me. It sounds like they have to find another source to get this information.
Yeah,
they just don't trust their own data.
I think the data's there and they trust it, but what they don't trust is their ability to bring updates to the players and have them come out being accepted. I think that's the core problem here, and that's why all the consultation is necessary. So, and I mean, there's some more points on this later that I noted down, and some of them are just head scratchers, but their core purpose is to make sure that the skills have a purpose, which, yes, we talked about that before. We talked about it actually in our July podcast, that a lot of skills are in this category. So we could ultimately use the mining and smithing rework as a template for reworking other skills, which we better get right. And of course, they said they still do want to rearrange the tiers so that they make sense, as in it doesn't make sense today to have level 90 rune stuff that you can't use at the end. They want it to be fun and satisfying to level, and now they said half the problem was communication with the last design. It sounded more complicated than it was. And, you know, this was one of those head scratchers to me, and I think if they had looked at, for example, the evolution of combat, they could have seen that that in itself was also a communication problem in the past. So with that being the case, it's like, why didn't we learn how to communicate ideas to the players properly, or, you know, or face them coming back at us, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that, you know, is just a standard thing that happens with Jagex, and I mean, we've felt it numerous times. And they said it, quote, gets complicated at tier 90 because the question if tier 90 smithing gear should be better than tier 90 combat gear, this is going to be addressed in another developer diary, and, quote, it is incredibly divisive. Now,
yeah,
I mean, okay, I can see how if you have, you know, a great drop from the Calphite King or Nex or even, you know, the God Wars Dungeon 2 critters today, how, you know, bringing out a tier 90 piece of armor can be divisive. Well, the simple solution to that is to have tier 90 armors come out through the smithing skill that can be used at that tier, and then you also allow people who have level 90 plus smithing to create add-ons for their God Wars Dungeon 2 armor to take it up to the next tier or add some other kind of effect to it. That is how I would work through this issue of having player-made combat gear at tier 90 and the NPC dropped gear be both having a purpose. What do you think of that?
I think it's a really complicated area, and it needs to be handled very delicately. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and I can agree with that.
Yeah. And, I mean, it doesn't need to be divisive. Part of the problem is that Jagex lets it become divisive by fostering these discussions about these pieces of content. If they were able to, you know, just push this update out the door, and when it arrives, say, okay, those of you guys who are getting your stuff from the NPCs, the tier 90 bosses, you're ultimately going to benefit from this too, and here's how, A, B, C, D. That's how you benefit from the mining and smithing rework. If they did that, I don't think there would be too much of a problem, but it's the fact these discussions are being fostered that it's becoming a divisive issue. It's creating a controversy where there really shouldn't be one, in my opinion. So, we'll have to see how this goes, and I mean, let's just hope that this mining and smithing rework doesn't get nerfed to nowhere and become absolutely useless for the skilling side of the equation. Then another question, should smithing be profitable? And their choices are the following. Run it like divination, where you have a choice between earning more experience or gaining divine energy, or it can be less profitable at lower levels and get profitable at the higher levels. So of those two choices, which would you prefer? Either be like divination, where you can have a choice all the way through, or lower profit at the lower tiers and higher profit at the higher tiers?
I would go with the divination route. I think it works really well. It's proven to be really effective for divination. And I know that the two skills are going to behave differently at the end of the day, but I really like the way they did divination. And I think if they can try and redo that success again, it would be an easy win for them.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to pushing huge updates, that's what they need. They need to be in a position where the community trusts them. I trust them because I've been around so long, and I've seen what Jagex is capable of. But there's lots of people online where it becomes, I think we're all aware of how easy it becomes to perform a knee-jerk reaction to certain situations. Am I right? Mm-hmm. So it's those people that need to be worried about and convinced that Jagex is going to make the right decisions going forward. And I can say to anyone out there who might have friends that have, concerns about this and Jagex making knee-jerk decisions that aren't necessarily for the best, I say send them to this podcast, because I think we have a history of calling out Jagex when things aren't right. Like, we had a really depressing 3 weeks of the podcast at the end of July when we were constantly talking about how poorly optimized the first batch of the ARC was. So... and we made the complete 180 when ARC Batch 2 came out. So I'd say send them to listen to this podcast if you have friends who are concerned about that. They also stated that the goal for this update should also include pulling up non-combat training, and that the best source of ore should be the mining skill. I think this is the best line and best sentence out of this dev Q&A, and here's why. We've talked about so many times how, you can just go camp at the aviancies, for example, and come away with huge, huge stacks of adamantite ore, which is obviously so much faster than going out to mine the addy ore. It just makes no sense. So I'm glad they said pulling up non-combat training is going to be the best way going forward here. So that's excellent, and the best source of ore should indeed be the mining skill. So I just want to underscore that has been noted by Jagex, and they are going to be focusing on that. So this is something that we're going to need to be watching out for in the future, is ensuring that people are not going to be complaining too hard about when certain creatures, like the aviancies, get their drop tables tweaked for this. Mm-hmm. Now, this is, of course, something Jagex said that was also a bit of a head-scratcher. And they quote, "Surprisingly few people take ore from a monster encounter and skill with it."
Yeah. I don't know why that would confuse them.
I mean, if it's just going to sell for quick GP, of course they're going to do that. No one wants to... I mean, aside from the self-sufficient types and the Iron Man characters, that is, of course, what people are going to do. So, like I said, it's a head-scratcher. I don't know why it's surprising to them, but we've known this for a long time. Now, following from that, they say the skill will be designed with people in mind who are self-sufficient or Iron Man. So, once again, this is pointing on the same fact that, you can go use the mining skill, and then you can hammer away, no pun intended, at the smithing skill and be self-sufficient with this. So I think this is a great thing. Very happy about these last 2 points, or 3 points rather. They also said they'll be doing some kind of mastery content, which isn't going to be prestige or expanding the level to 120. Possibly getting better at certain types of smithing or mining. And the reason they're doing this is because people already have level 99 smithing and mining prior to this update. And the question is, why, should I go out there and do mining and smithing when I already have level 99? That's the question everyone who's maxed is going to ask when this update hits. And they say hopefully something along the lines of mastery content. They're not entirely sure which way they're going to go on this, but something along the lines of mastery content will enable people who have those levels to already get something from the skill. So that's good. And then the purpose of training to 99 smithing, they said, needs to be really clear. The example they gave was herblore. Right now, the example of getting high-level herblore, 96 plus, is, of course, the overload potions, and they want something similar for mining and smithing. So the idea is, of course, that with smithing, you could have some untradeable perk. That's what they're calling the overload model. And I assume for me, this could be my kind of idea of adding on to your armor or weapons that you get from various drops and enhancing them further, which I think would be really special and a great way of doing it. So that's the overload model, or something that can generate GP. And I think that personally the GP generation route is not the best way to go, because if you look at the high alk tables, there's so many ways of bringing GP into the game currently, and we don't really need more. So that's where I'm going to stand on that one. What do you think, GP or the overload model?
Overload model.
Yeah, definitely. Would you go for something adding on to existing dropped
yes.
armors? Yeah? All right.
Yes. I think it goes without saying. I think that would be enticing to anyone that does PVM to get them into the skilling side of the game.
Yeah, do you think they would train to 99 or 95 smithing for that?
I think they would try. I think that's the important thing here.
Yeah, I think getting people to do that is all the best, because do you remember back in the olden days when it wasn't easy to max? You would see people, who would have 90-plus combat, right? 90-plus average combat skills, but average of 65 or 75 or 70 in their skilling levels. And that would really show the disparity between the combat types and the skiller types. That line's kind of been blurred now with maxing, but I think it still kind of exists. And I think if you can force the combat types to try a skill, it's great. Just like if you can force the skilling types to try a combat encounter, that's also good.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, they ended off with a community question. Which method do we prefer, and what do we think of the design thus far? They want you to communicate with them either on the forums or on Twitter or through some other website I'm not going to name, which those of you guys who listened to a podcast a couple weeks ago will know what I'm talking about. But
or for the past few months.
There you go. The hashtag is DevDiaries. And you can talk to them on Twitter with that. Personally, I would just go to the forums. The forums already has an interesting discussion going on there. Though I think the thing to be warned with that is that there are people on the forums who, try to police ideas and shut down ideas that they deem as bad or silly or stupid. So in that case, maybe Twitter's better. I'm not sure. But this goes back to the story writing idea. Can you convey your ideas about mining and smithing in 140 characters? I don't know. But could we fit this 10 minutes of mining and smithing talk into 140 characters somehow?
Probably.
Well,
why was Maud Osborne's shirt so undone? That was the most uncomfortable part of the whole thing. I couldn't watch it, and every time they would show Maud Osborne, I'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Well, it's in HD as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can really see it in the close-ups to him. Like, for example, at 10 minutes in. That really didn't catch my eye, but I wasn't watching it full screen at the time. So
I was watching it on my TV. So
And how large is your TV?
It's 55-inch.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. I got to see all the individual hairs on that chest.
All right. Well, that's not the way I envision the mining and smithing rework talk ending here, but thank you. Oh boy. Yeah. I initially assumed we would be doing a complete 180 from what we saw in the initial dev blogs, but so far I am led to believe that the core of what we saw will still be there. It'll just be presented differently and maybe tweaked around a bit differently. But like you said, perhaps it's just best that we hold judgment off, right?
Yeah, except Maud Osborne.
Yeah.
You got to figure out if it's either too hot or too cold. You can't be wearing a sweatshirt and have that zip down and your shirt buttoned like that, because you're just sending mixed messages.
All right. Yeah, I had no idea we were going to go there, but hashtag DevDiaries on Twitter, where they want to share the thoughts about that. Actually, let me have a look and see.
Hashtag turn up the heat.
Yeah, or that. Let me just have a look and see if that's popping up anywhere on the Twitters. DevDiaries on Twitter. Let's see. There was only a few posts about this, so I don't know if it's going to... Okay, let's see. Later, that was top. Maybe it'll go. Yeah, 9 hours, 11 hours ago. A couple of other little choices, but yeah, not too much on Twitter about this, so it'll be interesting to see what people have to say. So, anyways, hashtag DevDiaries on Twitter looks like they got a bit of a discussion going on, and the official forums. So, okay, so now I realize we just had a good, happy discussion here about mining and smithing, if you can call it happy, based on Mr. Bistro's aversion to Mod Osborne. But running from the 20th until the 24th is the Attack of the Zombie Sprouts Treasure Hunter event. This is going to be a way of getting some free farming or herb lore experience, as well as 2 sets of themed wings. And you can supercharge your process by getting the various plant sprays on Treasure Hunter. And after you complete them, you'll receive the inflorescent wings as well as the decaying wings. Then when you finally get both of them, you will unlock the Zombie Sprout Companion Pet. And every 15 minutes, a smaller set of sprouts will appear somewhere on the world, and the large set of sprouts is actually by Death's Portal, south of Draenor Village. So that's where you can use your plant spray and whatnot on these. And let's just say you get a huge amount of XP. I got 7 of the little spray things, and I used it for Herblore XP. I got 20k Herblore XP for free. And after completing the daily, I guess, progress on this, I got a grand total of 42k Herblore XP. So you can get a hefty amount of XP here, and a lot of XP if you decide to purchase those Treasure Hunter keys. And this is the same XP rate as we reported at the last Treasure Hunter event, where people were getting 99 divination and rune crafting in one weekend with this event. So this is another huge XP dump if people are purchasing Treasure Hunter keys. And honestly, I mean, we talked about this at length last time. I don't think this is the best kind of Treasure Hunter promotion to be running, where you're offering, the amount of XP where people can get 99 or past 99 in one weekend by purchasing these keys so much. But it is what it is. That's pretty much all I have to say on this. You have anything you'd like to add?
No. I'm exhausted. You get that, you just start to gloss over these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're out there actually, actively shopping Treasure Hunter promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of disappointing, but, I mean, as long as it pays the bills, I'm fine with it. I don't need that to increase my XP, and my XP and my achievements are my own. That's the way I look at these. So, we'll see how much XP we get this weekend and how much the Herblore and farming charts jump.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else RS related before we move on to our listener questions?
No, I think it's time for questions.
All right. So this first one is from Chodo3000 from Clan Quest. Hello, Shane and the RSBANDB update group. This week we saw the release of the event Attack of the Zombie Sprouts. I've been complaining about events for quite a while in the way that it's now almost always for XP gain. Years ago, events were special moments for the community to play together and earn items or emotes. I see this event like an incredible stupid way to gain some herblore or farming XP with no story behind it and no sense at all. It's just a RuneScape parody of Plants vs. Zombies. What do you think about it? And were past events better than they are now? Which was your favorite one? Thank you and have a good weekend. Yeah, this transitions nicely from what we were just talking about, in that, there's a little bit too much XP, so we'll set that part aside. I think we're both agreed on that, right?
Mm-hmm. We are.
And past events were better than this, especially when they, put them behind, whether it was like a spring update or a quest or something like that, I want to say. have to think to favorite events, the things that were the most revolutionary based for event-wise, I'm thinking the Armadillo versus Bandos God Wars event. That was pretty neat, the way you could either do skilling or combat with that. I think that was great. As for treasure hunter stuff that sticks out, nothing really is jumping out at me, mainly because you need to pay to access it in a meaningful way. So I'm going to say, if you could have, this Plants vs. Zombies kind of event as you have called it, which I think is accurate, if you were going to put this behind a holiday event, I think that would be great. And, we've talked about this before for various things, and this is a good time to mention that last week after our podcast episode recorded, it was revealed that various treasure hunter outfits were going to become available on other sets of content after a certain amount of time. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Basically, it was a post by Mod Balance, and he says that they're changing their approach for the elite skilling outfits. That's what we had last week. And there's going to be some changes to them, and they want these elite skilling outfits to become high-level rewards for playing relevant game content. And while these will still be obtainable and introduced with Treasure Hunter, they'll be making their way into game after a period of exclusivity. After a minimum of 4 months from their initial release, the elite skilling outfits, including the Dungeoneering outfits, will be obtainable via relevant skills or gameplay as a high-level reward. We are committing to this for any future elite skilling outfits too. You'll be seeing some near immediate additions to the game, in that we'll be making the Gemstone Golem outfit as well as the Rune Ethereal outfit obtainable from skill content in 2 weeks' time, as in Monday, October 31st. We'll let you know the ins and outs of how you'll be able to obtain these in the next week. Ultimately, as we've said in the past, our goal is to balance the commercial success of RuneScape and Jagex with the long-term health of the game. This is one step towards this objective, and I'd like to thank the RR man for sending me this in a private message. So, I think that the fact that Jagex has realized this with the skilling outfits, and maybe if we complain enough about Plants vs. Zombies and the previous event like this, we might be able to get some kind of change to that as well, and have them incorporated into some kind of mini game going forward, perhaps. So, it's that post that I think gives me a bit of hope towards the future of these kind of updates. So, I'm not too necessarily concerned about it, but yeah, definitely past events better than they are now. So, what was your favorite of these events in the past? I'd say Treasure Hunt or any other kind of limited event that gave you XP.
I'd have to say probably the Armadillo and Bandos one as well. And I know you said it, but that one was so fun because I actually participated in it more than I remember participating in any other world event or just community event. It was really well put together. I would do it with friends and clanmates.
And it wasn't rigged.
And it wasn't rigged.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a great update. I want to see something like that again.
Yeah, and I mean, you can imagine Plants vs. Zombies here being a part of a similar kind of event in the future if it wasn't already in its Treasure Hunter. So, I mean, it's just the various possibilities that are out there that I think spur these kind of questions, and I'm glad that Choto asked this question. So, Thank you. You want to take the next one?
Sure. This question is from Trekkie. Is the beginning of a new calendar year. You are the CEO of Jagex, and just received a report on how much profit you have made the past year. As the CEO, where do you want to lead Jagex for the next few years? Where would you like to see Jagex in the 2020s under your leadership? Do you create a new game, a new product, or expand RuneScape?
Oh, this is leaving the gates wide open for some speculation and game design here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would absolutely love for the company to have another success other than RuneScape, but I don't think that's going to happen given the fact we've seen them double down on Chronicle and Idle Adventures and just focus purely on, the core RuneScape product line. So with that being said, I'm going to focus specifically on RuneScape and not work on, a new product or anything like that. Though what I would like to do is I would like to see each year themed towards a certain kind of content update. And the first thing I would have done for 2017 is I would have made 2017 the year of the rework. As we have the bank rework, which was voted on. We have the mining and smithing rework along the way. Construction is in need of such a huge rework that, honestly, the skill, aside from, the costume room and the menagerie, it's like, what's the point? So I would greatly rework the construction skill as part of the 2017 rework. I might also look at some of the other skills as well that need a rework. Like, for example, what's the use of Hunter in the game, for example? Or, where do we take thieving, And this goes back to the podcast that we did in July. Let me just get the exact number on that, because that podcast had some pretty good discussions that were along the line of gearing up for a year of reworks. And I think that if we were to do something like that, definitely would have improved the way people see the game. Okay. Not sure what number that was. But anyways, 2017 would have been the year of the rework. I can tell you that much. Following from that, I think I would have I would focus on bottle quests in 2017 since it would be rework year, right? And then moving on to 2018, I would make that another huge lore year like 2013 was. Except rather than having a tie over 3 years like we are just going to be wrapping up with, the Sliske's arc, I would have a smaller arc and do that in a year. And that would be 2018's focus would be lore and ensuring that the game's lore projects are complete and we complete some of the much old desired quest lines. Following for 2019, I would probably look at another new skill. I'm not sure what it would be. I don't think it would be in the vein of an elite skill because I don't think we need elite skills. I think Invention at this point could have stood on its own as its own skill. So I would have brought a new skill out for 2019 and, maybe focused on reworking some of the smaller updates that we didn't get to in 2017. And then, 2020, we don't even know what 2020 is probably going to be like in terms of gameplay and, where the gaming industry is going to be at. So I'm just going to leave off with providing an outline for 17, 18, and 19. But that's where I'd go. How about you?
Okay. I would actually take the company in a direction where they would be working on a little bit more of the mobile game market. This would give them a chance to boost their value, boost their name, which would set them up for better success to actually try again and branch outside of RuneScape. And these mobile games shouldn't be related to RuneScape as a way for them to kind of just disenfranchise with that a little bit from it's the only thing we do. And I think over a few years, they would get enough money to try and do another game, a game like Mechscape, back in the day when Mechscape was a thing that was talked about. But as for RuneScape, I also agree that the game really needs a lot of care and attention to the stuff that's already going on in there, because you can't keep piling crap on top of crap for just years and years, because then it's just going to be just a jumbled mess of things that work and don't work, and that's going to cost money at the end of the day.
Episode 577, SOS, the State of Skills.
Yeah. And so I think that doing a lot of reworks would be really important. It would improve the image to the game. Yeah. But it's also worth noting that now with the new update cycle that they have planned, they could really push that and maybe market these big updates a little bit differently that maybe other gamers would take notice to. I think their marketing could be done a little bit differently and much better than it currently is. And I think that's one area that if Jagex really wanted to put some money into, could see a huge increase in the player base, which might improve a lot of areas that we're seeing where power creep is just nuts, and kind of even things out a little bit with new players.
Yeah, and what you mean by power creep is that things become so powerful in-game that it becomes so easy to do things that were once, considered a challenge, and that devalues other certain things. And just going back to our SOS State of Skills podcast, episode 577, we determined that the skills that are all right now are divination, herblore, farming, and summoning. Meanwhile, fishing, cooking, and crafting, and hunter need small balance updates. But magic, runecrafting, woodcutting, fletching, firemaking, and construction need severe updates to the skills to make them relevant today. Construction, we know why. Fletching, who buys bows and arrows and ammunition from player fletchers? There's no point to the skill in that regard, so it needs a rework to make it viable. Firemaking, okay, you're just burning money, but maybe we could find some other use for it. Woodcutting, okay, that feeds into fletching. If you make fletching useful, you'll make woodcutting great again. And then finally, magic and runecrafting. Magic as it is right now, useful for combat, useful for some skilling things, but because of so many NPC drops of runes, there's no point to do traditional runecrafting anymore. So if that was fixed, I think that would be a great thing, and that's pretty much what we came up to here on episode 577. So yeah, I think we definitely agree then that a year of reworks is probably needed for some of the skills. Another thing I'd like to mention, and something that really doesn't get enough attention in the game, and that's the Mobilizing Armies minigame. Mobilizing Armies was put into the game, I forget how many years ago, and it's really a game that is unique and has some of the RTS elements to it, which this was put in before the evolution of combat, and I think with a bit of a UI change and maybe a little bit more responsive,
it could be its own mobile game.
It could be its own mobile game, but I'm going somewhere else with this that's not necessarily mobile. You could have pretty much a version of Heroes of the Storm in RuneScape. How would that go?
I think that would go pretty cool.
Yeah, and you weren't able to do that before the evolution of combat, and you didn't have the graphics technology to put the camera in all these unique positions and do things with various other things that you might be controlling and all that. But now I think the technology is there that if they wanted to, they could effectively create a mini Heroes of the Storm game in RuneScape. So
now that you're saying that, they could create mobile games for a lot of these D&Ds that exist. If you think of Conquest and Pest Control, you could see those as just simple things that you could have on a phone.
Yeah, and I mean, it might be a way of revitalizing some of these too, because let's just say you make a mobile version of Castle Wars. And, I mean, you can play that with either other players, which I don't think would be likely, because I think it's pretty hard to find mobile players online on a mobile device these days. But you could have some kind of version of that would link back into the game Castle Wars. And it wouldn't necessarily be a requirement, but it might be an interesting way of adding on to the existing Castle Wars game. So, I mean, maybe that could be 2020. Maybe that could be a focus on mobile, or maybe that could even be 2017. So... But you see, there's lots of interesting things and opportunities like that. It's just that so much is focused on the current trajectory of the game that I think it's been a while since we've seen a huge departure from standard vision of, just updates as we've known them for the last, 6 to 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been a huge change. And I think some of these things that we're talking about here would be really massive and change the way we play the game. So, I mean, if anyone out there is listening who would find these ideas interesting, they're free to use. But yeah, that Heroes of the Storm idea has been one of mine ever since, seeing Heroes of the Storm and then hearing some back conversations of what they have wanted Evolution in Combat to be like initially. So, something they could do. All right, I think we answered that one well.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can't forget RuneScape Chronicle for tablet and mobile, please. 2017. And the last question is from Wolfie. Are you going to be joining the short story competition? And what is the spookiest NPC in-game? From Wolfie. I'm not going to be joining the short story competition because I find writing stuff in 200 characters really, really difficult. Are you going to be joining?
Maybe I should, just to prove Shane wrong.
Go for it. Go for it. Then we'll talk about it on next week's show.
And the spookiest character in game is definitely Ned, from who makes your ship.
Really? Explain.
He just takes it. Like, Ned is, like, way stronger than you, apparently. Because why does he just get to keep your ship?
What do you mean?
It's your own ship.
What do you mean takes your ship?
In Dragon Slayer, the ship breaks.
Right.
But you never get it back.
Oh.
It's his.
All right.
Fair enough. He's working on it. That's something that I've had a joke with a bunch of my clanmates about for a long time. Ned is this mysterious person that Jagex should really put some more time into. I would like a Ned-specific quest.
Yeah, they could, and I think that would fit into the bottle quest realm, because, it's not a huge story, and it would use assets that are already in-game. All right, that's fair enough, and it would be a nice tie-in, like a grown-up sequel to Dragon Slayer. So, very good.
It could be like all roped up or something, because he makes rope.
Oh, that's pretty funny. Sounds good. All right, if we're being real, probably it would have to be the NPC that's designed to be most spooky, and that's the huge globby thing from Broken Home. Because it chases you through the hallways, and you can see it, and it pops out when you look through the hole in the door. And, Broken Home was all in all designed to be an atmospheric, spooky quest, so I have to go with the old standard from Broken Home. I never redid that for the subsequent lamps and whatnot. Did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, same here.
I did enjoy the quest, though.
Really?
I did.
Okay. Because when we were doing this episode, we both hated the quest.
Oh.
So.
Differing opinions.
Yeah. All right. Why did you find it enjoyable?
I like the atmosphere. I guess I probably didn't have a whole lot of problems, like dying in it much.
All right. Fair enough.
But the atmosphere was good. The theme was just really different. And I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Okie dokie. Sounds good to me. Well, I believe that answers all our questions here. Thank you, Wolfie, for that one. If you want to send in questions like anyone else here did this week, all you have to do is head on over to update.rsbnb.com and go to /ask, and you'll be taken to the forum topic, or you can leave us a voicemail at 571-57BNB, which is 571-572-2632. Also take email questions to questions@rsbnb.com, and on Twitter via direct message at @rsbnb. All right. So you ready to make some history here?
Let's make some history.
All right. So, we've had these virtual assistants and text-to-speech technology for probably a good 20 years now, but it wasn't really that great back in the olden days. You had to, spend lots of money on software if you wanted to do text-to-speech back then. But nowadays, everyone has it in their phone with Siri, Cortana, Google Now, the Google Assistant, and so on and so forth. But Microsoft released a breakthrough this week, AI breakthrough, that is going to improve Microsoft's technologies that use speech recognition. So, of course, that's Cortana and the Xbox, Windows Phone, Windows 10, and so on and so forth. The researchers in this report reported a word error rate of 5.9%, down from the previous 6.3% that was reported just last month. This 5.9% error rate is about equal to that of people who were asked to transcribe the same conversation, and it's the lowest ever recorded against the industry standard switchboard speech recognition task. We've reached human parity, Zudong Huang, the company's chief speech scientist, says. This is an historic achievement. The milestone means that for the first time, a computer can recognize the words in a conversation as well as a person would. In doing so, the researcher team has beat a goal that they set less than a year ago and greatly exceeded everyone else's expectations as well. And just to put this in perspective of how groundbreaking this is, they said, even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that we could have achieved this. I just wouldn't have thought it would have been possible. So this is a huge, huge breakthrough in being able to get computers to understand the words that we're saying and then convert them into text-to-speech at a reliable level. And, just the fact that Microsoft has this technology proves something about Microsoft that I've always said to be true. And that is that Microsoft has the grand vision of how things in our home technology should be. But they don't always have the best implementation. And because of that, they often get brushed to the side as, being not that great. But 5.9% and the fact that it can tie with, professional speech transcription is pretty great. So, and the reason they were able to achieve this, they say it doesn't mean the computer recognized each word perfectly. It's that, in fact, humans don't do that either. Instead, it means that the error rate, or the rate at which the computer misheard a word like have for is or for the, is the same as you'd expect from a person hearing the same conversation. So the downside to this means is that you and I, when I say the wrong word, your brain just puts in the right word, if you know what I mean. And, they attribute this technology to research in neural networks, and not to get too techie on everyone here, but basically this means that words like fast and quick are grouped together in the same space because they have, relatively, of course, the same meaning. So that's how they're able to tell what words someone actually said. So, I mean, the breakthroughs from this are just going to keep coming as time goes on. And you're going to see it in everything from handheld to Microsoft to, Microsoft's own translation services, which I'm sure they could release at this point. So everyone thinks Google has the leg up on AI and taking technology forward, but it's actually Microsoft in this case. So I just wanted to point this out to everyone. Yeah, it's pretty great, and it really, underscores how successful Microsoft has been in recent years at their technology products. So, yeah. You have anything else on this?
No. Kudos to them.
Yeah. All right. So this next story is something that you brought to me, and it's something that people have been wanting for a long time, and that's called the Nintendo Switch. It's Nintendo's new game console. It's going to be released in March of 2017. It was codenamed the NX, but it's called the Switch. So why don't you tell us about it?
Well, the Switch, it's a pseudo handheld console that also works on the TV. And it's unique in the fact that it's harking back to the days of using cartridges, in this case using SD cards that look a little bit similar to a 3DS's SD card in thickness. But what this allows is it allows the console to be able to process things faster because it's using flash memory instead of CD memory. So there's a lot of really cool things at play here. So I'm really excited to find out more information about the Switch. But because it's so new, I've only just heard about it. And there's a lot of stuff I still have yet to know.
Some things I were able to dig up on it is that it's going to probably run for around $350.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be using a chip from NVIDIA. That's what it's going to be powered by. Kind of like the Tegra, but I'm getting the sense it's going to be proprietary in a way. And, with that raises a lot of questions about this piece of hardware. And the question that raises to me first and foremost is that this is looking like it's going to be a mobile gaming platform with the ability to play on the TV, which, isn't exactly what people think of when they see a TV-based gaming platform. Yeah, it's going to be able to play, at a good frame rate and play these games on the TV, but it's not going to compete with the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. I think we can already pretty much say that at this point. And because that the entry-level Xbox One is only $300 and the full Xbox One is $399, and this is right in the middle, I think that Nintendo is going down the same path to problems that they have with their other most recent consoles, and that is that it's only going to sell to those who play Nintendo-based games. Am I wrong with that?
No, I think you're completely right. I think Nintendo needs to just take a step back and realize that they might just not be in the market for consoles anymore. I think they would be very successful as just a gaming company.
Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine a Mario game or a Zelda game on iOS and Android. Look how popular Pokemon Go was.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, that's what worries me to a degree is that Nintendo is putting this much energy into this project. They said over 500 man-years of development time has gone into this, which is a lot for what is effectively a mobile gaming platform. Yes, you can separate it. That's neat and everything, but it doesn't look any better than things that are already out there. It really comes down to the form factor, and if you wanted to, you could play games like this on an Apple TV that you can buy for $169 and use a Bluetooth gamepad with. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it is expensive for that, and for that reason, I think it's only going to focus on the Nintendo users, which probably isn't what they need to do at this stage of the game. So, we'll have to see how successful this is going to be, but we saw Zelda games, Mario games, a new Mario Kart game, so it looks like it's going to have all of the current Nintendo staples that everyone hopes it does. But aside from that, I don't see how any gamer who has been gaming on the PC or the Xbox One is going to be enthused to get this unless they want the Nintendo titles. And that has been the Achilles heel of everything since the Wii.
Yeah.
So I think the only reason the Wii and the Wii U did successful is because they were revolutionary in their form factors in what they did. But there's nothing revolutionary about this, because you can already get something like this, and it's called a tablet and a Bluetooth controller. So, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong with this, because Nintendo was one of the early pioneers in this field, but it certainly seems like they're repeating their same mistakes from the past. So
it does.
Launch date is expected in March of 2017, and, launching in March, that kind of takes the hype away from the Christmas and holiday season for the next year. So I don't know if that's a wise idea to be launching in March when, if we look at the past iterations of the PS4 and Xbox One, have both launched in the fall. So maybe March 2018 would have been a better time, or rather, fall 2017 would have been a better time for them to announce and launch this. So we'll just have to wait and see, but I am not holding my breath. All right. So, I thought we were finished with this. I really thought we were finished with this last week.
You're just bringing this up now to just smite me.
Okay. Someone made a mod in Grand Theft Auto 5 where a bomb was replaced with a Samsung Note 7 phone. And you can use this as a explosive device. You throw it and it explodes. Samsung had requested the mod video be removed from YouTube as this. Of course, they can't have it removed. But, I just wanted to highlight this, that it's pretty funny that it has moved this far into day-to-day life, that someone has actually taken to making a Note 7 mod for GTA 5 that explodes. So, granted, this story has passed, and this should hopefully be the last time that we talk about this.
You're just jinxing it now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know what else I was supposed to cover this week for tech news. I got the two big ones already. So, anyways, you can just have a look at this. There's a video posted of what the mod looks like in GIF form on our show notes at update.rsbnb.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Skill of the month update time.
Skill of the month update time.
So, fire making. Juker has been maintaining a linear trajectory and has gained an astounding 26.2 million XP this month. Second place.
Congratulations on getting 99 twice.
Yeah, he started with 18 mil XP. Flash is currently in second place with 13.1 million XP gained, and Parnassus is in third place with 7 million XP gained. Flash has been gaining XP at an albeit slower rate, meanwhile Parnassus has stopped. So it should be interesting to see what happens in these last 10 days of the month here. But looks like Duke has run away with this competition after all. So.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, following from that, in the same kind of discussion, we only have one achievement of the week this week, and that is the RR Man who got 99 invention on October 15th. So congratulations to you. Always nice to see these inventions coming in, and that everyone has finally got through the skill that they thought would take so long to do when it first came out. So, how long did it take you to get 99 invention?
I don't have 99 invention yet.
Oh, I thought you said you were maxed.
Oh, I'm kind of maxed.
Elite skills don't count?
Maxed. Well, elite skill or not, it still needs to be at 99.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't live with myself.
Fair enough. All right. Well, congratulations, Mr. R. Man. Always nice to see you up on the board here of getting level 99s.
Yeah, congrats. Wish I was you.
Yeah. So what do you got for pick of the week this week?
My pick of the week is the HBO series Westworld. This is really cool. Anyone who likes director or producer J.J. Abrams, creator of Lost and Star Wars 7, he is back with this HBO series called Westworld. And if you guys like Game of Thrones, I would highly recommend that you give this one a try. It's kind of a dark spin on artificial consciousness in kind of a Western theme. And it's set at the intersection of a near future, reimagining the past, explore the worlds in which every human's appreciate, no matter how noble or deprived, can be indulged. So it's just like people living in this artificial consciousness like realm that's
basically an escape
Western
from the real world then.
Yeah, but it's really, really good. It's 3 episodes in right now, so it gets updated weekly with an HBO Now subscription or just HBO. You can watch it on Sundays at 9 p.m. Central Television, Friday 7 p.m. Central. Yeah. So, but it's really, really good. Shows like this, Mr. Robot, Game of Thrones for sure. If you guys like all of those, I would highly recommend this one. Especially if you like Lost. I would really recommend it if you liked Lost. And just a little bit more history on this series. It was based off of a book and another movie called Westworld back in 1973.
Okay, that's interesting. So, is the idea that they're escaping into this artificial consciousness as the result of a desire, or...
Well, Westworld, it's kind of like this theme park that people go to kind of escape this thing, where they can live out whatever kind of lifestyle they would want to with what may or may not be any consequences. So it's really cool.
Oh, okay. And then I assume there will be some twist along the way that does something to them, if you said it is reminiscent of Lost in that regard then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I've never watched that series either, but I do know Mr. Lens Flare, J.J. Abrams, of course. You guys are so lucky he didn't ruin Star Wars with all those lens flares, you know? But
yeah, he did a good job. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, you guys can have him over there. You can have him.
No, we're going to send him back to you, Trekkies. You can see what he does to your next movie.
Oh, no. But, all right. And I assume that you can also... Can you get this on Netflix as well, or no?
No, this is an HBO Now thing.
Okay, fair enough. So, I'm still confused. Are they trying to escape from something, or, like...
No,
is there any bad thing about spending all this time in this alternate reality or artificial consciousness?
Well, the series is just starting to get into twists. They're doing a lot of character setup yet. So if there's any negative effects to this, I'm sure that we'll start to really see them come to fruition very soon. So.
All right, fair enough. So just getting started, so not able to know yet.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, sounds good. What you been up to this week on RS?
Not a whole lot. I haven't had a whole lot of time to be on RS, but if I was probably fishing. Been just doing a lot of stuff at work, so.
All right.
Unfortunately, yep.
All right. As for me this week, working to get 97 mining, so I can mine the salt from the Ark and, get chimes and complete things over there. I don't know why I decided to do that. I initially said that I'm not going to get any more mining levels until the mining and smithing rework is in. I'm not sure if that's a wise idea or not. I don't know. I'm still conflicted about that, if whether or not I should get 97 mining and take those levels away after the mining and smithing rework. But I figure, hey, it's mining, right? How many ideas in mining can change with the mining and smithing rework. So, not too big of a problem there. But aside from that, just keeping up with the daily supplies on the Ark, I would recommend that everybody go there every couple days at least and pick up the supplies that you're given. You can store a maximum of up to 10 days there. That's 50 supplies. So definitely go and pick them up every couple days at least. But aside from that, that's about it. I'm looking forward to next week's update and, of course, wrapping off the month with Halloween. Oh, I don't think there's much else to say this week. I'm glad that we were able to bring you guys the news on the elite skilling outfits. That is definitely something I think that was warranted after last week's discussion on those and the question we received. So I'm very glad that we managed to fit that in. So...
Oh.
All right. I believe that's it. So with that being said, for Shane and Mr. Bistro, we will see you all next week, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Bye.